Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the noon briefing. Let me start with a reminder that at 12:45 there will be a briefing here by Diego Pacheco, the chair of the landlocked developing countries and chargé d'affaires of the Bolivian mission to the UN, along with others. They will brief you on the adoption of the General Assembly resolution entitled International Day of Awareness of the Special Development Needs and Challenges of Landlocked Developing Countries. So that's at 12:45. So stay put after we're done here. This morning, Antonio Guterres became the first United Nations Secretary General to address Amnesty International's Global Assembly. He told the Assembly that powerful forces are ranged against human rights and against the international system built to protect and uphold them. The Secretary General said that the scale and scope of the humanitarian crisis in Gaza is beyond anything we've seen in recent times, and he spoke about the level of indifference and inaction we see by too many in the international community. The Secretary General said that the UN's heroic staff continue to serve in unimaginable conditions, while many are so numb and depleted that they say they feel neither dead nor alive. He said that the United Nations stands ready to make the most of a ceasefire to dramatically scale up humanitarian operations across the Gaza Strip, as we successfully did during the previous pause in fighting. Our plans are ready and they are finalized, he said. He once more called for an immediate and permanent ceasefire, the immediate and unconditional release of all hostages, immediate and unimpeded humanitarian access, and urgent, concrete, and irreversible steps towards a two-state solution. Our Deputy Secretary General, Amina Mohamed, will travel later today on behalf of the Secretary General to attend the second UN Food Systems Summit stock-taking moment, also called UNFSS+4, which is taking place from the 27th to the 29th of July in Addis Ababa. It is co-hosted by Ethiopia and Italy. 4 years since the 2021 UN Food Systems Summit, UNFSS+4 will serve as a platform to reflect on progress, strengthen collaboration, and unlock finance and investments to accelerate the transformation of food systems. While at the summit, Ms. Mohamed will meet with senior government officials, the private sector, civil society, youth, and other stakeholders to discuss priority actions to support food systems transformation and accelerate the progress on the Sustainable Development Goals. The Deputy Secretary General will then go on to Amman in Jordan to chair the annual regional retreat with UN resident coordinators from across the Arab region with a focus on advancing sustainable development in these countries. Ms. Mohamed will also meet with senior government officials to strengthen the UN-Jordan partnership and discuss priority actions to support the SDGs. The Deputy Secretary General will return to New York on August 2nd. Now turning to the situation in Gaza. Our colleagues with the Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs warn that conditions on the ground, which are already catastrophic, are worsening fast. Colleagues remind us that hunger and malnutrition increase the risk of illnesses that weaken the immune system, especially among women, children, older people, and those with disabilities and chronic diseases. The consequences can turn deadly fast. Food scarcity is also having a severe impact on pregnant and breastfeeding women, as their babies are more likely to be born with health complications. It affects mothers' ability to breastfeed, putting children at increased risk of infectious diseases. In Gaza, systems and services are on the verge of collapse, as we've been telling you for days now. Just yesterday, the local health authorities announced that 2 more people died from starvation. In the meantime, the trickle of supplies that are making it into Gaza are nowhere near adequate to address the immense needs. The Undersecretary General for Humanitarian Affairs, Tom Fletcher, said yesterday that we must save as many lives as we can and stressed that the UN has a plan to do so. Mr. Fletcher shared that plan with member states and we have shared it with you as well. It outlines the steps necessary to stop the horror, the constraints placed on humanitarian operations in Gaza, and our proposed solutions to resolve them. Our teams are in place to ramp up delivery as soon as we are allowed to do so. Our supplies, which have been paid for by member states from around the world, are ready to move. As you will recall, during the last ceasefire, tens of thousands of truckloads entered Gaza, with food aid reaching nearly every single person in the Strip. What is missing right now is safe, sustained access. Aid workers face constant danger. Crossings are unreliable, and critical items are routinely blocked. If Israel opens the crossings, lets fuel and equipment in, and allows humanitarian staff to operate safely, we will accelerate the delivery of food aid, health services, clean water, and waste management, nutrition supplies, and shelter materials. Ensuring that these elements are in place will be critical to scaling up assistance in the event of a ceasefire. However, right now, various constraints imposed by the Israeli authorities on aid delivery continue to hamper our ability to respond. OCHA reiterates that humanitarian workers must be enabled to deliver aid safely and efficiently. As access constraints continue, yesterday, out of 15 attempts to coordinate humanitarian movements inside Gaza, 4 were outright denied, with another 3 impeded. 1 was postponed, and 2 others had to be canceled by the organizers. As a result, only 5 missions were facilitated, including the pickup of cargo from the crossings and the transfer of fuel. Further on fuel, the quantities entering Gaza remain insufficient to maintain critical facilities. The limited amount of fuel received yesterday has been fully allocated to support community kitchens, healthcare, and water and sanitation facilities. And in response to questions we have received, I can confirm that Tom Fletcher has written a letter to the head of the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation. In the letter, Mr. Fletcher reiterated that the UN stands ready to engage with any partner to ensure desperately needed humanitarian aid reaches people in Gaza. But he stressed any such partnership must adhere to the globally accepted principles of humanity, impartiality, neutrality, and independence. This means that aid must go where needs are greatest and without discrimination, and that we answer to civilians in need, not the warring parties. These principles are vital to fostering the community acceptance and trust that underpin effective humanitarian action. Mr. Fletcher said he welcomes dialogue on how to reach as many people as possible and alleviate widespread suffering without causing harm. Now, turning to Syria, the Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs reports that as of yesterday, an estimated 176,000 people have been displaced due to the recent hostilities in Suwaida Governorate. This includes an increase in displaced people arriving in Damascus Governorate, in addition to those in Suwaida, Dara, and rural Damascus. We continue to work with our partners, including the Syrian Arab Red Crescent, to deliver assistance to those affected by the violence, but access, particularly to Suwaida, remains highly constrained. Meanwhile, in northern Syria, local authorities reported a large explosion yesterday at an ammunition depot in Marat Misrin town in Idlib Governorate. 6 people were killed and at least 140 others injured. That is also according to the local authorities. Syrian civil defense teams responded to evacuate people and transferred the injured for medical care, though secondary explosions in the vicinity have significantly hindered emergency response efforts. These latest developments underscore the urgent need to sustain large-scale humanitarian assistance in Syria. However, severe underfunding of the response is challenging those efforts. The resident and humanitarian coordinator in Syria, Adam Abdelmoula, yesterday launched an extension of our 2025 humanitarian appeal for the country. The plan requires $3.2 billion to support 10.3 million people in need through the end of this year. But to date, only $367 million have been received, representing less than 12% of the funding needed. Last year's response plan was only 37% funded, a steep decline compared to previous years. OCHA and our partners call on the international community to step up with timely, flexible, and predictable funding to help millions of Syrians rebuild their lives and future. Now, in southern Lebanon, UNIFIL peacekeepers continue to observe ground and air military activities by the Israel Defense Forces, including yesterday 2 Israeli battle tanks that crossed north of the Blue Line in Sector East. UNIFIL also observed an air attack with 9 explosions conducted by at least 2 fighter jets in Sector East. Also yesterday, a UNIFIL patrol found unauthorized mortar shells and detonators in Sector East. As per usual practice, the cache was referred to the Lebanese Armed Forces. Peacekeepers also supported the Lebanese Armed Forces in collecting weapons and ammunition that had been discovered recently at locations in Sector West. On the 23rd of July, UNIFIL peacekeepers assisted the Lebanese Armed Forces in clearing 2 roadblocks in Sector West, enabling their deployment in that area. Peacekeepers also conducted 5 trainings for Lebanese Army personnel earlier this month, focusing on unexploded ordnance identification and handling. Last week, the peacekeepers, working in collaboration with an NGO, provided an unexploded ordnance awareness session for school children. This activity is critical as several southern Lebanese areas are littered with unexploded ordnance and improvised explosive devices following the recent hostilities. And you will have seen a statement we issued yesterday evening on the joint press statement on climate change at the China-EU summit. The Secretary General welcomes the commitment of China and the European Union to strengthen cooperation on climate change and drive the global just transition. As 2 of the world's largest economies, the Secretary General said that he believes it is critical that China and the European Union continue to work together to ensure that COP30 in Brazil represents a major turning point in the global effort to address the climate crisis. The Secretary General reiterated his call to all G20 countries to present 2035 nationally determined contributions, the NDCs, that are economy-wide, cover all emissions, align with the 1.5-degree goal, and define a credible pathway to transition away from fossil fuels, as agreed at the first global stocktake. And this morning, as you saw, the Security Council held a briefing on Ukraine. Briefing Council members Miroslav Yencha, the Assistant Secretary General for Europe, Central Asia, and the Americas, warned that the daily barrage of Russian missiles and drones against Ukrainian cities and towns has continued to intensify with devastating consequences for the civilian population. He added that we're also concerned about the increasing number of reported civilian casualties, reportedly resulting from Ukrainian drone attacks inside the Russian Federation. Mr. Yansha noted that on Wednesday, Ukrainian and Russian delegations met in Istanbul for the 3rd time this year. He said that we welcome the continuation of these direct contacts between the sides and urge Ukraine and the Russian Federation to make further progress towards a ceasefire and a lasting settlement. Also briefing Council members this morning was Joyce Masuya, our Deputy Emergency Relief Coordinator. She warned that the humanitarian situation in Ukraine has continued to deteriorate sharply. She said that civilians in the country continue to bear the heaviest burden, struggling to access food, water, power, and health care. Ms. Masuya noted that nearly 13 million people need assistance, but that limited funding means we can reach only a fraction of them. And both of their remarks were shared with you. And now just a few more notes and I'll be done. Turning to the Democratic Republic of the Congo, the Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs warns that the country's worsening cholera outbreak demands an urgent scale-up of the response. As of today, health authorities have reported over 38,000 suspected cases and nearly 950 deaths since January. This surpasses the total number of cases and deaths due to cholera for last year. The outbreak has now spread to 17 of the country's 26 provinces and include Kinshasa, Mai-Ndombe, and Equateur, which are non-endemic for cholera. While the government, the UN, and humanitarian organizations are scaling up health interventions, significant challenges remain. Water, sanitation, and hygiene services remain critically underfunded. To curb the spread of cholera, a vaccination campaign is now underway since early July and aims to reach 3 million people across 11 health zones in 4 provinces through the end of the month, so through the end of next week. And yesterday, an additional $750,000 was allocated from the UN Central Emergency Response Fund to support anticipatory action against cholera in the capital, Kinshasa, where a significant increase has been reported. Kinshasa has recorded more than 1,500 suspected cases and 120 deaths since mid-April. The new SURF allocation for the cholera response is the third of its kind in the country this year, following earlier allocations for cholera response in North Kivu in March and in Maniema and Chopo in May. OCHA warns that the risk of the outbreak spreading further will increase as the rainy season approaches between September and December. Our humanitarian colleagues emphasize the urgent need for immediate funding to strengthen the health responses and address critical gaps in water, sanitation, and hygiene services. Now, I have a few international days for you. Today is the first International Day for Women and Girls of African Descent. Empowering women and girls of African descent requires a comprehensive approach grounded in human rights, cultural affirmation, and inclusive policy making. Today is also International Day on Judicial Well-being. And finally, today is World Drowning Prevention Day. And I have three more. A few housekeeping notes. Our colleagues at the Department of Peace Operations and the Department of Political and Peace-Building Affairs are telling us that today, Mariam Bukar of Nigeria was officially designated as a UN Global Advocate for Peace. Ms. Bukar uses the power of poetry and performance to champion gender equality, youth empowerment, and inclusive peace building. And if you are free on Sunday at 6 p.m., you can see her performing in Central Park at the Summer Stage Festival. She will be introduced by Assistant Secretary General for Africa, Martha Poby, and followed by other performances celebrating African diaspora voices and music for peace. And on Monday at 1 p.m., our friend Maximo Torrero, the chief economist of the Food and Agriculture Organization, will be with us again, and he will brief you on the newly released State of Food Security and Nutrition in the World report. And finally, we would like to thank our friends in, maybe you can, I don't have a full quiz, but you can guess which country we want to thank today. In Beirut for their full payment to the regular budget. So Lebanon is bringing us to 117 paid up member states. And that is it. Now your turn. Yes, Edie.
Thank you, Stephanie. Does the Secretary General have any comment on Israel's announcement that it is going to allow airdrops, including by Jordan, to Gaza?
Yes. Sorry, can you tell I have too many notes here? So we welcome all efforts to provide aid to people in Gaza who desperately need it. We reiterate that the most efficient way to bring in supplies is by road. This is why it is imperative that aid is allowed to enter through all crossings and via all available corridors. There's simply no alternative to large-scale delivery of aid by land, but of course we welcome also this announcement. Yes, Lenka. And then Deji.
Thank you very much, Stephanie. So according to the list of speakers you sent to us, American President Donald Trump should be attending the UN General Assembly session. I just wanted to ask you, please, is there any meeting scheduled already, or has the UN requested one, or has the American side requested one? Thank you so much.
You're talking about the UN General Assembly in September.
Uh-huh.
You know, we'll give you updates on all of that when we get closer to the date.
But would the UN like to meet President Donald Trump?
Of course.
Thank you.
So, yes, Deji.
On the letter from Mr. Fletcher to GHF, is that the response of the GHF's help offering a couple of days ago to help the security convoy?
It's really an offer for dialogue on how to reach as many people as possible in Gaza and how to alleviate the suffering that you've been seeing everywhere. So as we've said it so many times here, that we're open to working with. We already work with several partners in Gaza, but elsewhere all around the world. The idea is that the partners that we work with, as we've said so many times, respect humanitarian principles.
Is this letter, by any chance, under the pressure from any parties?
No.
No. Okay. Yesterday we received this OCHA's aid delivery plan in the event of a ceasefire, right? So how would the UN see GHF fit in that plan? Because in that plan, it didn't mention GHF's help, right?
I think the position on the GHF remains the same, and I think I can just restate what I just said. We're open to working with partners who work along the lines of humanitarian principles and make sure that they do not set up operations that endanger the lives of people. And you see, there's going to be dialogue. The plan was shared yesterday with member states. We shared it with you. In the long note that I read today, I described at length the outline of this plan. And then we'll see, of course, what happens during an eventual ceasefire, which we hope would happen as soon as possible, because as you heard the Secretary General this morning calling once again for a ceasefire, it's urgently needed to end the suffering that we've been seeing.
Given the history of GHF, will the UN consider the offer from GHF to secure the convoy?
I will not get into that. Let's see what happens with everything that we've just described today, and I'm not going to speculate.
Which means you're
on
open
any
to
of
the
this,
option
guess,
that you're going to accept the security.
We have these principles where I think we've described here so often how aid is delivered and how we do not. When convoys move, they need to have safety and security, but we do not also hire external contractors to do security. Yes.
Yeah, thank you, Stephanie. You didn't mention this afternoon's Security Council meeting. I understand it's a closed-door meeting, but will there be someone from the Secretariat to brief the Council?
Yes, it's a private meeting, but I can tell you that the Secretariat will have someone briefing in that closed session. Someone
Who
from
that
the,
will
from
be?
Oh,
Who that will be?
it will be Khaled Khiari. Yeah, but it's a private meeting, which means that we will not be sharing these remarks.
I have a technical question. The closed-door meeting and an open meeting, technically, are they the same in terms of procedures? I mean, you have briefers, you have all the council members, and then you invite relevant countries. Are they the same in terms of procedures?
These procedures are determined by the Security Council members themselves, by the presidency, and this afternoon they determined that this was going to be a private meeting. Yes. I think, let me go to, and then Edie, and then at the back. Yes.
Thanks, Stephanie. Firstly, on Thailand and Cambodia, do you have like any updates on the topic, like any phone calls, any meetings?
So the Secretary General continues to call for utmost restraint. I can tell you that from our humanitarian side, from our humanitarian colleagues, they confirmed with both Cambodian and Thai authorities that there have been civilian deaths and injuries. They also confirmed that more than 131,000 people in Thailand and over 4,000 people in Cambodia have had to leave their homes, and this is according to humanitarian partners. Temporary shelters, including schools and temples, are overcrowded with food, shelter, and medical assistance among the most urgent needs, and the UN stands ready to support these efforts if requested at this point. So this is where we stand.
Any information on the displaced people on both sides?
That's what I have for the moment.
All right, and another one. I'm not sure if I missed it or you've said it. Do you have any details, comments on the decision of France to recognize the state of Palestine?
So on this, France's decision is a bilateral and sovereign decision. The Secretary General welcomes all the steps that support the realization of the two-state solution. We stand ready to support all efforts to advance a just, comprehensive, and lasting peace in the Middle East, and we look forward to next week's meeting here. Yes, Edie.
Has the Secretary General made any calls to either the leaders in Cambodia or Thailand or both?
I'll keep you posted on any calls that are made in that file. Yes. Yes.
Hi, good afternoon. Talking about the food crisis in Gaza, how will the UN SS+4 summit commitment ensure urgent and safe delivery of food to 2 million hungry people in Gaza?
Can you repeat the beginning of your question? You're talking about the food summit
Yes.
in Addis, right?
Yeah. So, how will this summit commitment ensure the delivery and safe, urgent and safe delivery of food to 2 million hungry in Gaza?
We can expect renewed calls from the UN side for the safe, sustained food delivery inside Gaza. And on the summit itself, we will keep you posted. We will have updates as the summit begins early next week.
Can we expect any real action planned soon?
We'll keep you posted on what comes out of this summit. Yes.
Thank you.
Very good. So I think it's time I don't see questions online. So I think it is time to move on and to give the podium to our next briefing. And thank you so much, everyone. Have a good weekend.